Welcome to episode 214 of the Daniel Yoris podcast with today's guest, Brianne Tedisch. Let's go. Welcome back to the podcast, everybody. Joined here today by Brianne Tedisch. We're going to give this another go as we've already tried a couple times dealing with some tech issues. It seems to be never ending, but it is what it is. Brianne, thank you so much for being here today, bright and early this morning for you.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Brianne has been getting super jacked lately, or the last while, really. And that's more or less what we're here to talk about today. I think people overuse the word or the term maybe superwoman. I mean, all women are amazing and and all that stuff, but you truly seem to do it all from the look from the outside anyways. So that's what we're here to talk about today. So quickly, please just introduce yourself and then we'll get into it.
Yeah. Thanks. Brianne Tedisch, having me. I don't know, we can start wherever you would like. Like
Okay.
you said, I'm so used to doing this. I'm not even sure what to start covering because it's what I do.
Yeah, fair enough. And so this is something we were talking about just before we hit recording, that Brianne is a little bit, I don't want to say nervous, but you were basically saying I'm not sure why people would want to listen to this. What am I going to have to say? And what I was telling her is that, all the stuff that she does, and if you follow Brianne on Instagram, you'll see she's posting all the time, all the things that she's doing. And to you, Brianne, it's normal. You get up, it's 6 o'clock in the morning for you right now, and you've already been to the gym and got back. Most people, that's not, normal quote unquote behavior. Most people are not doing that. It doesn't make you weird by any means. But most people are not doing these things, right? And having a job and having kids and going to the gym multiple times a day. And you're not just going to the gym and going through the motions, doing a whatever class. You're getting super, in incredibly good shape. So these things, while they seem, normal and it's just part of what you do now, this is certainly not the average behavior. So that's again really where we're going to talk about today, and the fact that you yourself, you are not a trainer, you're not a fitness professional. Obviously, you've been doing this for some time, but this is not your profession as well. So can we actually start more in the beginning and a little bit less recent? What was your introduction into fitness? When did you start in the gym?
Sure. So I've always gone to the gym. I mean, throughout the years, I'll try not to make it too much of a run-on story. Throughout my 20s and 30s, I was always going to the gym, but it was a lot of cardio and classes and just the norm of what people thought they had to do. It was never a lot of strength training, and I was never consistent about it ever. So it was just a lot of trying to watch my weight and more about the numbers and the scale, kind of classic. And it wasn't until the last couple years where kind of the mind shift and what I wanted out of it changed. And what I was doing on Instagram classically, or what I was looking for at the time, it was probably something still very numbers related, but I came across my first coach that I stuck with for 6 months, and she was she had done a competition, more muscle, strength related. And I was like, it was still very aesthetic, the look that I wanted. I was still kind of going about it the wrong way, but what she did get me doing correctly was a strength training program. So that was the best thing I did, was it got me into the gym. Started out 4 days and then quickly went to 5 days and stuck with the schedule. So that was my introduction. That was a couple years ago.
And what was your first impressions like? I mean, you had been in the gym, so you weren't new to it, but new to lifting and stuff. What was that like?
At the time, I was just really burned out on what I was doing because I wasn't getting the results that I wanted. Just to sum it up, I'd been doing the whole yo-yo dieting, and just everything that I was doing wasn't working. And I was like, I'm going to try this whole weightlifting strength training thing. I'm going to try and do something different because what I'm doing is not working.
Right.
And she looked great. And I just thought this is definitely seems like the slow way to do stuff, but if I can just stick with it, I'm going to do it one day. One day is going to be 30 days. 30 days, 1 month is going to be 2 months. And I just took it from there.
Right.
I
Now,
started feeling better.
Okay.
I
So
started
that's a big
better.
key.
Yeah.
So two things with that then.
Yeah.
One, what was you said you weren't getting the results that you were looking for. What is that look? Even though it's still aesthetic based, like that's still a very okay goal to have.
Right.
What was it that you were chasing that you weren't getting with the stuff that you were doing before, just the cardio and the classes?
Sure. I was doing all the HIIT classes, which are fun. Because at the time, the gym I was going to, that's what I was stuck doing, which whatever gets you in there and going regularly, accountability, that's great. People ask, where do they start? I still think that's a great way to start.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember looking around, and there's a couple women there that I talk to more now. And one of the things I noticed was the upper body and like their shoulders and their arms. And I'd been doing these HIIT classes for a little while, and I still didn't have that. I'm not doing something correct.
Right.
I'm lifting the dumbbells. I'm using the kettlebells in these HIIT classes, but it is really hard to lift heavy and to do it correctly and to get that look.
Yeah.
Like I'm missing something.
Of course.
Yeah.
And that's very fair. And that's a very heads up, aware assessment by you at that early stage, right? This is something that, people who listen to the podcast will know that I talk about this all the time. I kind of make fun of the group classes and stuff. And, by all means, they are healthy, fine, go exercise. It's good for you. But when we're trying to change the way our body looks and we're trying to get a certain shape, that requires building muscle. And building muscle requires certain inputs, and it's not lifting an 8-pound dumbbell 97 times in a class.
Yeah.
It requires a little bit more specificity, a little bit more weight, a little bit more repetition, and a longer period of time. And I think that's the thing that's really missing from a lot of that stuff. A class will be marketed as strength training, a strength class, and you have more experience with it than I do, but I'm sure what you would consider a strength training workout now is definitely not what they would have called a strength training workout in most of those classes, just based on legitimately what's actually happening and what the result is. And so fast forward, then I assume that, you spoke to these ladies and they said, hey, we're doing these classes and it's fun. This is great, but we're also lifting weights. Is that was kind of what was happening?
Later when I talked to them, because it was intimidating at first, I just remember watching them from inside the class, and I was like, they must be doing some kind of competition, or they must be doing something more intense. And what they were doing, they each were doing their own thing later, and they were following their own program.
Right.
But it'd been a while since either of them had done any kind of classes.
Right.
So,
Makes
and
sense.
at first when I started doing my own strength training, I was trying to do both. I kept trying to do classes and do that, and don't really have time to do both down the road.
So at what point did you kind of dive fully into strength training? Is it when you hired the coach and you started kind of looking to these things? You hired that coach and then you're
about 6 months in, I was trying to do both for a while. 6 months after my first strength training coach, I switched over, and that's when I hired my second one.
Right. And so now you started strength training. At what point, what was your progression through that? Because, there's a difference from where you started to where you are right now. Right. So obviously, world of a difference there.
Yeah.
So talk to me about your progression through that and how you came to, I assume, enjoy it a lot more and see the results that you see now.
Sure. So without long story,
don't let it out. Yeah, give us the whole thing.
My first one that I found, and I always give people recommendations based on my own history of how I found my coaches. My first one that I found on Instagram, there's some good ones and some bad ones. That's why I have a small handful that I give recommendations to. And based on where people are at, that's why I give them the recommendations that I do. She was okay. She had done one competition. She looked like a bodybuilder. She was very hands off, very little experience. She looked good. Like I said, she got me into the gym on a good schedule, and that was the biggest benefit that I got from it. So I'm kind of an independent contractor anyway. When I go into the gym, I do my own thing. I go in, I get out. I don't need a whole lot of hand holding necessarily. So she worked well in that sense. But at the same time, she was like a meal plan person. She was very macro centered. She was very much a bodybuilding type coach. And with my background in eating and yo-yo dieting, like I needed to take a step back before I had somebody that was that detailed. So fitness wise, she was okay, but I needed more of a mindset coach. So I stuck with her for 6 months because I didn't want to seem flaky, but I really needed somebody that was equal parts mindset and fitness.
Right.
The eating part, she was just a little bit too much detailed for me. I needed to step back and also focus on why, like at 9 p.m., I couldn't stick with my eating, because I was going up and down still a lot with my eating. I was sticking with the fitness part. I was making it to the gym, but my eating was still all over the place a little bit.
Right.
So 6 months in, I'd been following Jeff Packman online.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's when I
Shout
hired
out to Jeff Packman, former guest of the podcast as well. I think that's how you and I connected, actually.
Yeah. And so that's when I hired him, and I stuck with him for a year. And so that's when I made a pretty big jump. And like you can see, because I take all the pictures, all the pictures and all the videos. And I made a lot of progress in the next year. And that's when I made a lot of progress also with like the sticking to my eating and the not yo-yo dieting. And it was a mix of like, I didn't need to macro count. I needed to watch my calories, my protein. And so take a giant breath. Nobody needs to do all of that right away. You just need to take a giant breath, relax. You have way more info than you need. You need to stick with the basics and just make it to the gym. Do what's going to make you stick with a regular schedule. I didn't need all the macro stuff at first with that first coach.
Yeah,
So
I agree. I agree with that because I think for a lot of people, it can be very overwhelming, and it depends on everyone's entry point, right? Like some people come in to coaching as like having a lot more experience if they've been doing this, and they're ready for like very particular macros and a very particular workout program and a very particular schedule, and that's where they're at. But someone who is more on the beginner side, this is also like personality related too, and the history of your own life. But someone generally who's more on the beginner side is like, we can start with more of a habit-based approach and like, okay, we can make a better choice more often. And that will take you a good portion of the way. It'll only take you so far. Like at some point, if you want to keep going and keep making progress and keep getting leaner and keep building more muscle, you're probably going to have to like kick things up a notch and start counting macros and start doing this stuff. And I'm sure we'll get there in your journey here as well. But yeah, it's definitely not necessary. But that's also to say that there's nothing wrong with it. If that sounds like something, if you're like a real numbers kind of person and you want to like, track all the stuff and do all the things, like there's nothing wrong with that either, to each their.
Yeah, absolutely. It has to do with your goals too. And like at the time, just with kids and everything too, if you're doing the whole macro and like a food plan on top of it, it can be a lot to try and figure out a whole nother meal on top of everything else. I mean, it's just not always realistic until you're really good at it. And then you can take everything your kids are eating on top of what you're eating and actually do that.
Right.
Now I can do that. But at the time I was like, I don't have the budget and the time to figure out a whole different macro meal plan on top of what I'm trying to feed my kids on top of everything else.
So how were you actually navigating that then? Like, what did you like in the beginning, and then we'll talk about what you're doing now, but like, how are you actually doing that where, you're making food for yourself and trying to like make these changes, but also, taking care of your kids? Like, how did you do that from a food perspective?
Well, when I was with her for the first 6 months, when I was actually trying to do the food plan and the macro thing. I just substituted in what I could. I mean, protein's protein. So I would just look at what I had and substitute in. So numbers.
Like she gave you like a full on meal plan, like eat 6 ounces of
Right.
chicken breast, eat, okay.
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah. And then when I switched over to it just being calories and protein, that was way easier for the next year.
Right. And so your kids were eating more or less the same things you were, just obviously, kid size portions.
Yeah.
And then your kids are not super picky eaters or anything like that.
Not terribly. Like we've always had I've always tried to be very open with them about like there's no good foods or bad foods. There's foods that do more for you, and then there's foods that don't do as much for you.
Right.
Start with the foods that do the most, and then you fill it in with the fun stuff.
Right. But even within that, your kids are not like, one of them doesn't like pepper. One of them likes, only eats broccoli. One of them only eats peas. Like they're not that particular.
They're both really great fruits and veggies. I mean, each of them has a couple things they don't like, but
sure.
I've always raised them to have access to everything. So pretty lucky in that sense.
Yeah, that definitely helps.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so then after you started working with Jeff, then things started to kind of click a little bit more because it was a little bit more easier, and you were like really making progress with both your training and on the nutrition side of things. And you said you worked with Jeff for about a year. So where were you at the end of that year, and what was your mindset like as far as kind of what you wanted next?
When I was working with him, like even 6 months into it, I had mentioned thinking about doing bodybuilding or doing like some kind of photo shoot, but it was very, very much in the future still, because it was still something that sounded super scary. So I didn't broach it seriously until the end of that year. And then that was like when I knew I was pretty ready to move on with a bodybuilding coach.
So then let me interject there for a second.
Yeah.
There's a difference between being like, lean and muscular and in shape, and then being in shape for stepping on a bodybuilding stage or doing a photo shoot. I mean, you could do a photo shoot whenever, but if you're going to do a photo shoot, you're going to want to be like, you're going to want to really, push the envelope a little bit. How did you start to, because like you didn't set out wanting to do a bodybuilding show, right? You kind of want to just be like, again, look a little bit better, leaner, more muscular, better shape, kind of all that stuff. So how did you start to make that decision? Because that's another step, and I think that's understated how much of a bigger step that is.
Yeah, understated, and definitely, it's one thing to decide to do it, and then when you decide to do it, to actually undertake doing it, and then you realize, oh, okay, now that I've decided to do it, it's still like 20 more steps, right? Because everybody you see online, I don't care how many steps they show you, it's still 50 more steps, because they'll do the progression photos or the video, and they'll go, this was me, and then this is me now on stage, and it's still, there's so much time time in between that first photo and then them on stage in the bikini or whatever, and you just don't realize the time lapse in between that. I had done my homework at the end of that year when I decided to make that jump into looking into a bodybuilding coach. And I found one. And when I found the one that I was going to go with and decided it was a good fit, and he decided to take me on as a client. And I said, I think that I would like to do a competition at some point for sure. Like, okay, I could see us doing that. It was still several more months before it became a reality, but go from there. But so you commit to the process, right? And then now at this point, like you're already in pretty good shape. Like you're like going to the gym is not or lifting is not like scary or foreign to you in any way. You're probably pretty good on the food side of things. So at the start of this like bodybuilding coaching process, what changed?
what was the next step? And let's talk about the training side first, and then we'll talk about food side second. So what changed in your training kind of right off the jump when you said, all right, I want to do a bodybuilding show?
I definitely had to lean up more. Like you think you're like when the competition got mentioned, you want to start there?
Yeah.
Okay. Right away, I definitely had to lean up more. Like I thought I was okay. And then you go from saying where you think you're okay at to you still have to lean up even more. And then your training, I picked up from, I think I was training 4 days a week before, and I went to 6 days. But those 2 extra days made a huge difference.
Mm-hmm.
Like you don't think that 2 extra days is going to make such a big difference, and they do. And everybody's body just responds differently. But for me, they made a big difference. And I thought I was training hard before, but 2 additional days, especially, everybody's body, I tell them like the body parts show up differently. If you're having a hard time, like your lower body, your upper body, my lower body is a pain in the butt, literally. And I needed 2 extra days just for my body to show up the way I needed it to.
And that's 2 extra days of
macros.
lifting, right? That's not just cardio adding in.
Right. It's right now I do like 6 days of cardio and then 6 days lifting. It's 3 lower and 2 upper. But for me to get the results that I want, I absolutely need the 3 days of lower.
Right.
The 2 days of upper, I need all 6, but I definitely need the 3. I definitely need the 3 for the lower.
Sure. Everyone's got, I mean, especially when you're, going for bodybuilding, like everyone's got a part of their body that is the weaker part. It doesn't mean it's like weak or that it's, there's something wrong with it. It just means that it's the thing that you need the most improvement on. And so that might be lower, it might be upper, it might be your back, it might be your biceps specifically, it might be any number of the things, right? So there's always going to be something that needs more attention than the rest.
The last part to show up.
Yeah. Yeah. So 6 days of lifting, plus cardio, like that's a lot of time in the gym, and it's a big step up, right?
Yeah.
Before we talk about how you organize your life and how you actually make all that happen, not being a professional athlete whose job it is to just go to the gym and eat, what changed with your nutrition at this point? Because again, just to recap quickly, like you had kind of the habits down, like protein and calories you were tracking, and that was pretty good. What was the next step now, being that you had to get much leaner than you thought that you had to get?
When I started with this coach, at first I had been coming off of a cut, like with Jeff, and so I continued just to, because he was right. I should have taken a break in between the 2 coaches, kind of relax a little bit. I had to continue with a cut and lose a little bit more before I was ready to do this, getting ready to do this anyway. Nutrition wise, it varied a little bit. Like we just had to mess around with what worked with my protein and carbs.
As far as amounts, or as far as the actual foods that you were eating?
Not the actual foods. So I don't do a meal plan. That option was offered, but so he kind of left it up to me. Some coaches under the team that I'm under do meal plans. My coach left it up to me which one I wanted to do. It's definitely easier having kids that I can pick what I want to eat. Having that freedom is definitely a lot easier. So yeah, it just varies.
Right. Did you take away a lot of food then? Like, did your calories drop a lot? Like, what did change with your nutrition?
What changed? Not a whole lot.
Okay.
It stayed pretty similar to what I had been at when I switched over right away, and then my fat lowered. My body was just stubborn at first. And once it got going, but the 2 extra days of training helped. A lot of cardio at first.
So you needed a little bit more time, a little bit more on the calories out side of things, which I think is like something that is too underrated, if you will, where people don't realize like, yeah, you can't eat, McDonald's 15 times a week and like,
Right.
go for an extra walk and,
Hmm.
outwork your diet. But like, if your diet is not terrible, like, yeah, the extra couple hundred calories that you burn from getting in some more cardio, some more zone 2, Stairmaster, walking, cycling, whatever, that definitely can add up, and that definitely matters, and that shouldn't
Yeah.
be dismissed by any means. It's like, it's
Hmm.
just this whole thing on the internet where we can't just exist somewhere in the middle. It's got to be either like black or white. Like, the answer is always
Yeah.
somewhere in the middle. So that makes sense. So like a little bit more of
Hmm.
the same, a little bit higher intensity, a little bit more dialing it in, and a little bit more training, and that's kind of
Yeah.
gotten you more or less up to where you're at now, right?
Yeah.
So now you're doing all this training, you have a job, you have kids. How do you
Yeah.
fit all of this into the day? And this is probably the most applicable for most people. Everyone's got lots of things going on, everyone's busy, everyone has a lot of stuff going on, and they struggle to make time for the gym, 3 times a week, and you're in the gym basically 12 times a week ish. How do you do it?
Oh, 12 times. My work pattern is definitely probably an upside and a downfall because I have 12-hour shifts. I work in a hospital.
Mm-hmm.
So it's almost like an every other week type of deal. 12-hour days are challenging. So I go to two gyms. One is like a 24/7 and one is not. On the 12-hour days, it helps to have access to the 24/7. I can make it usually after work. It's really hard for me to get there before like 6 a.m. or so because I have to be to work at 7.
Mm-hmm.
I have to leave at 6:30. Uh, on my off weeks, I'm not picking up. It gives me almost like 7 days or so where I have a lot more freedom
I see.
there. As far as when people are asking me how do you do it? And I don't want to go into detail about, well, I'm paying for coaching, competition, and they don't always need the whole story. I just say, well, I have to.
Hmm.
I have to. One, this is what we do. It's what I do at this point. And also for it. So I
Right.
I have to, when you pay for something, you're invested. Like I have to. Um, you have to.
Yeah.
You just
I mean,
have to.
that's comedic in a way, but it also, like, it's very true.
Yeah.
There's a saying in like in sales that, like, when people pay, they pay attention, right? It's one of those kind of
Yeah.
sales tactic type of things, but it makes a lot of sense. Like, I can't even tell you how many people have downloaded free workouts or like
Oh,
cheap
yeah.
things, and like literally zero, almost the percentage of people who have completed those things is almost zero. It for sure rounds to zero, versus someone who pays even a little bit or especially a lot for some type of coaching. The
Right.
level of adherence that you're going to have to that program is way higher, and that's why you'll get way better results. Now, that doesn't mean that you should be charging or paying $5,000 a month for coaching. Like, that's obviously too much, and it shouldn't be limiting the amount of your ability to put food on the table for your kids or something like that.
Hmm.
But in paying for it, you become more accountable to yourself, because that money is such a direct thing that we like understand as humans. It's like, okay, I paid $100, I should get something in return.
Yeah.
Hold on a second. The thing in return is me actually getting to the gym so that I can get results. Like, I better do that. Otherwise, what am I paying this for? Just to not follow through in the program and then not get the results, right? So it sounds like, oh, I'm paying for it, I better do it, but it's very, very real, very, very tangible.
Yeah. Yeah. I've bought ones and downloaded ones that I've paid for that I haven't done, but I didn't have a coach to be accountable for. I didn't have photos and check-ins, so I have to because I have somebody to check in with.
Right. Right.
And so that's why I try not to be pushy with people when they ask for advice, but how serious are you? Do you actually want help? Because I can give you a small amount of advice, but I really would advise somebody to check in with if you are serious because this person is somebody that will help you. And I always tell them, they're not going to be pushy about selling you something. I just wouldn't do that to somebody. Like this
Of
person
course.
or this person will get you jump started literally for free, and they're not going to hound you about selling. I mean, they would love it if you would hire them, but if you really are struggling, they would gladly help you. And they're also worth following. And hint, because I assume you're asking me because you actually want help. So
Right. Right. This is the thing that I think a lot of people miss, that the gap from where you are to where you
right,
want to get to
right,
is mostly not a knowledge gap.
right.
Myself, any of my other coach friends, we don't
Mm-hmm.
have some sort of secret knowledge about training that like, oh, it's because you were doing 8 reps and you should be doing 12 reps. Like
Yeah,
that's the thing that's going to unlock your, whatever. Like it's not
yeah.
that. And it's not some secret macro recipe or some, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
That knowledge gap doesn't exist, and it is, and whatever little bit there is closing very, 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 very quickly with the rise of AI and how good some of these AI systems are getting now. And so knowledge is not the missing piece. The missing
No.
piece is execution. And like you're saying, Brianne, obviously I'm biased because this is what I do. But
Yeah.
I mean, the accountability and the structure of like, hey, here is the things that I think that you should be doing, and I will check in with you to make sure that you are actually doing them. Because if you don't do
Agreed.
them, they won't help you. And if you do them, they will help you. So it's not about like I already know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that. It's about you need to actually find ways to continually and consistently execute on that with a high degree of intensity as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Most
Yeah.
the information is already there. People have more info than they either swimming in it, they're drowning in it.
Right.
There's so much out there that I think if you had people write down, the stuff that they thought they needed help with, they could have a very long list. They just don't know how to apply it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Very well
And
said.
people, no one's reinventing the wheel. Some people are doing it in a fascinating and interesting way of how to apply it, and getting somebody to listen is a skill, a really good one. That's what makes really good coaches.
Right.
And
That's
depending, yeah,
that's the communication and the passing on of the information is a
mm-hmm.
different thing than having it.
Yeah,
And that this goes for all levels, right? Whether
mm-hmm.
you're a beginner or you're getting ready to step on a bodybuilding stage, like, yeah, there's some different information, some different approaches, of course, with those two things. But really, it's just more of the same. It's just more intensity,
Yeah,
right? More training, more closely paying attention to your diet. Now,
mm-hmm.
there's definitely a knowledge gap in the let's say the pageantry of bodybuilding, right? There's
Right,
posing and there's like, the way you should, whatever, different ways to make your body look and different things you have to do. But that's the sport aspect of bodybuilding. But the training and the diet side of things is like, yeah, you do more of the same things, just do it a little harder and for longer.
mm-hmm.
How has that journey been then, on the posing side of things? Like, what's that been like? Because that's a tough skill.
Yeah, it is. It's a sport all itself.
Mm-hmm.
So, I wish I had started earlier. It's going to be something that is a continuous effort on my part. People work for years at it. My coach right now is saying so. Not just my posing coach. There's a reason that people make a whole nother career out of it on the side.
Right.
Slowly
Yeah.
but
For people
surely.
who don't know, like in bodybuilding, you might have
Yeah.
several different coaches. The same way, like, a football team has like, a head coach, an offensive coach, a defensive coach, a special teams coach, like that kind of stuff. In
Yeah.
bodybuilding, you might have a training coach, like someone who does your workouts. You might have a nutrition coach. You might have, you probably, and it may, some of this will overlap for sure, but at certain levels you'll have like a drugs coach effectively, and
Right.
and you'll also have a posing coach, someone who's like just helping you come up with the routine and how to turn and how to pose this and how to hit this muscle and how to highlight your highs and hide your lows, kind of thing, at the super high levels of these things. Like, this all matters because that's what it really comes down to. You look at a IFBB pro stage, like all the people are up there are like super jacked and super lean. So how do you differentiate yourself? It's these very small things. And so, yeah, there's a huge skill in that.
Yeah. And then you have those different levels of posing, like the people that do the figure have like those really elaborate posing, the actual routines where they're almost like dance routines.
Mm-hmm.
No, thank you. I'm just trying to do the basic ones where I walk out there in heels because I'm so used to wearing tennis shoes. I was like, why can't I just do it? But they get to do it barefoot. I'm like, maybe I'm in the wrong category. If I was doing figure or that, I could walk out and not have to wear heels. So I've got to relearn how to walk. Didn't know that was going to be a thing. But
something as a guy that I would have never even considered. But yeah, it's hard. Yeah.
I know. I'll figure it out. I told my coach if I can just manage to not fall off stage, I'll be a success this time around. So
you will. I mean, yeah. you train hard enough and you practice hard enough that you certainly will.
Yeah.
For you, now you've said like this is all kind of just like what you do, and so when asking like how do you do it, like you just kind of figure it out. There's no secret sauce. You don't have some like crazy scheduling software thing that you do with the kids and you gotta pick them up and I gotta train and you just fit it in. Even that your schedule is variable, like you're going 12 hours at work on your feet doing stuff, like you're not, sitting down doing nothing. And then you're going to the gym and you probably don't want to do it at that time. It's probably not the you don't have the highest level of energy at that time.
Right.
But you just get it done. Are there any little, I don't know, tricks or tactics? I don't want to say hacks. It sounds like such a, clickbaity word, but are there any little things that you've picked up along the way that do help you with time management or organizing like you and your family's life?
Yeah. I mean, there's a few, like, it just depends on my schedule and like the kids' schedule. Like today is a day where I tried to get some of it done in the morning. It's a double kid drop off day. So both of my kids, like one is in second grade and the other one has preschool today. And so there's a 2-hour gap drop off. So I'm going to go back and some of my leg routine so I can be home in the evening. You look for gaps, and that's like a 3-day during the week type of thing. There's little gaps in the routine during the week where other times if it saves me having to go back in the evening and be gone, I can make time with the family. Motivation. People talk about motivation a lot. Especially people that are still looking for that to be the key to getting things done. Motivation is nice, like something that makes something taste better, but it's not necessarily what you need to eat something.
Right.
As far as going to the gym, it's nice when you have it, but you don't need it to go. Motivation for me, like, it's not there in the evening. I go evening when I have to. I don't like to. It's not my favorite time. Crowded, all the stuff is gone. Makes me grumpy. But I go if I have to. So if I can get stuff done earlier in the day, I do.
How much of your week are you scheduling out ahead of time? Like, do you sit down on Sunday or whatever day of the week and say like, okay, this is the work schedule, this is the kids schedule, like this is what's going on, and I have to get these workouts in, and do you kind of like slot them in on a calendar and then more or less try and stick to that?
No, I go as early as possible all the time when I can, as long as I'm able to, and as long as I have somebody to watch the kids. I go in the morning.
That makes sense. I think that even alone is something that people try and fit things into their day or their week all the time. chances are, unfortunately, the most likely time that you have free is like before work, before things start
Yeah.
happening, right? Unless your kids are
hmm
waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning and need attention right away. Like
Right.
you can wake up, get to the gym and get back. And I'm not saying that it's easy
Yeah.
to get to the gym at 5 o'clock in the morning. Personally, I have no interest in going to the gym at 5 o'clock in the morning. And currently my life doesn't dictate that I need to
Yeah.
do that. But if it did, then I would, because that's the
Right.
time that you have. So it doesn't have to be 5, maybe 6, 7, whatever it is. But going to the gym in the morning has nothing to do with like the fitness or physiological side of things. It's just like, hey, this time works. It's probably the most uninterrupted time. And if you can get that done, then that's what it's going to take. And that might be
Sure.
the difference between like getting results and sticking to this versus not. If you're trying to always go to the gym after work, it's like motivation's low, energy's low, your boss is being an asshole, like all kinds of stuff are happening after work,
hmm
and maybe you just don't have time. And then you legitimately don't have time. But at 6 o'clock in the morning, you probably did have time.
Yeah. It gets it out of the way. You have
Mm-hmm.
less chances to make excuses. And I was never an early morning workout person ever. When I used to do the cardio and the HIIT classes, I always did them.
Right.
But I don't care if you have to make coffee the old fashioned way. You have to go downstairs and start from scratch. Like, don't make it hard.
Yeah.
Your clothes. I mean, make it hard, but make it easy. Like, get your clothes out, but put them out of the way. Like, coffee halfway preset, but do it so that you have to go down the stairs like I did and actually start it. Don't have it pre-programmed and going. Like, make it easy, but make it a step that you have to do.
Hmm.
That's
So
what I
that's
did.
forcing you to actually get up and get going.
That's what I do. I like coffee in the morning, but I did
Yeah.
it so that
Who
I
doesn't?
actually had to get up, go down the stairs, and at least push the button to get it going. You know?
Right. Right. This is like the whole concept of, your alarm clock. You want it to be beside your bed, but don't put it within arm's reach, because then it's too easy to
Exactly.
just roll over, hit snooze, and then go back to sleep. If you have to like
Yeah.
get out of your bed
hmm
to shut off the alarm, it's like, you're way more likely to just, oh, okay, like my feet are on the ground now, like I'm standing up.
Yeah.
I'll just get out of bed and like, get on with the day rather than, continuing to snooze for a few more times, right?
Yeah. Small
If you're going
things.
to the gym that early in the morning, what time are you going to sleep at? Or regular? I know things will change with work, but like if you're going to like this morning, you went to the gym at
Yeah.
5. Like what time did you go to bed last night?
Mm, Last night I actually did pretty good. Last night it was 9 and 10, but it varies with times.
Right.
I take a lot of naps. I'm a big nap person.
Okay. You
So,
do like a power nap, like you got 20 minutes here and you'll just like close your eyes for 20 minutes and get back to it, or
I will take like an hour or two in the afternoon.
okay.
But that's if I'm not going to bed until 10 or so sometimes, and then I turn around and get up super early, 5 or 6. Then I'll take an actual nap. But I'm
Yeah.
lucky enough to have a 5-year-old that still likes to nap. So
Right. Right.
I will nap with him in the afternoon.
Nice.
Yeah.
I mean, all of these things is like, I think people are always looking for what is the thing? What is the thing that she
Yeah.
does? Like what does Brianne do? That's like, how does she do it? How does it happen? And really it sounds like, if I can summarize it in a sentence, it's that you just commit to it and you just figure it out. The
Yeah.
very specific things that work in your life are not
Mhm.
applicable to anyone else's life, because their job is different, their kids are different, like your commute time is different, your house setup is, everything's different. So the very specific things that you do, not applicable to anyone else. But really it's just like, look at your schedule, figure out what your goals are, and then commit to it. And it doesn't have to be if you're trying to do bodybuilding. Like if you're just trying to get in shape and kind of get your life in order and be fit and healthy,
Right.
all the same things apply. You don't have to train 12 times a week, but you can train 3 times a week. You still got to fit it into your life. If you can think of anything, what has been the most difficult part of this whole process for you, aside from posing? What has been the most difficult part of this process for you?
Of the bodybuilding part, or just starting with
The whole
everything?
thing. Yeah. The whole fitness thing. Yeah.
Oh,
You think it was harder
I
at the
was
beginning, or is it harder now?
probably the beginning. I would like looking back. I mean, each has had its own thing.
Mm.
Split it into two. But like at the very, very beginning, I think it was just getting used to the idea that you can eat normally. You don't have to yo-yo diet. Like it's possible. It's possible to just eat like a normal person. Nothing is going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Because I just had such a skewed version of food and nutrition and working out, and that I could get the results that I wanted without having to do 5 million cardio classes. And yesterday, short mini story, but I was doing one of my strength training exercises, and this guy must have been about 65, came up to me and
Brianne,
had been
sorry,
put on.
just talk a little bit closer to the mic. Yeah.
Older gentleman came up to me and was asking me for advice. He'd just been put on one of those GLPs. They didn't give him any background info. Because you're very lean. Are you working towards something? I ask you for some advice. Because I've seen you in here several times. You don't do a lot of cardio. Are you able to maintain this on not a lot of cardio? I trying to give him short run. Yeah, you don't have to do 6-7 days of hours of cardio. It's a lot of strength training, and that was the biggest switch for me. Background is that strength training was a lot of my success.
Right. The way that I can sum that up in a sentence is that I think a lot of people very early in their fitness journey run into a similar issue where like, okay, I go to the gym twice a week and I feel okay, but I want more. I want to lose weight more. And so they start to try to do more or think that more of the same is going to be better. And that can be like more workouts, more cardio. And on the diet side of things, it's less food, more as in like a harder calorie deficit, like less food.
Yeah.
And while there is certainly a degree of that, which is true, like you're going to get better results training 5 days a week than you are 2 days a week, more or less. The thing that is overwhelmingly true is that a better plan is going to serve you better than just doing more of the same thing, smashing your head against the wall, so to speak, like just doing more and more and more cardio and less and less food. It's like, it'll only get you so far. Like better is better, not more is better type of thing. And one thing, if I will, on the cardio as well, the point of cardio is not to burn calories. It definitely does that. But the point of cardio is like training your cardiovascular system, and it's a way that you can burn extra calories. And I know I've talked about this like 1,000 times, but the point of cardio is not just to go out there and burn a bunch of calories, right? For most people, that's not going to be the thing that is going to move the needle on the building of your body and getting that, toned, lean, strong kind of look. It's just not going to do it. If it was, everybody would just do that and everyone would be like, super lean and jacked and happy with it. But obviously that's not the case. So you can't just cardio your way out of a muscle building problem. Right.
Right.
And so I think it's always just important to highlight that. And it, that was basically your experience. Right. Is there anything else? This has been super good and super helpful for people. Is there anything else that you think that we've missed that you think is like a very important part of your journey, or things that you do on a daily, weekly basis that would be like helpful for people?
I think that just reinforcing consistency. I'm trying to think of like when people ask for advice, which, it doesn't happen. When I mention that people ask, it makes it sound like it happens all the time. It doesn't happen all the time.
But it happens often enough because people see you and they're like, "Hey, you obviously like you're doing something right. Like you're walking the walk, right?"
Yeah. Um, Consistency is like the biggest thing, especially when it's somebody younger and they are like, I'm following this person or this person because I'll ask what they're doing, if they're what they're currently doing, because obviously whatever they're doing is not working. Say that they're following this person or that on Instagram, and it's like instant kind of cringe because they're throwing out a few people, which it's not that they're terrible, but at least pick one, maybe stick with that person. Um, do something that's going to make you consistent and accountable. And if you need help, I'm never short on recommendations. So
Yeah. I think that that is also underrated advice.
yeah.
You have to like chase one rabbit. You can't be following
Right.
like 6 different approaches at one time. Like even if it's not the best thing to do, and best is, highly subjective, obviously. At least stick to one thing and like see that through. Stick with it for 3, 4, 5, 6 months, and then see what happens. Like if you're trying to do like 3 different programs at the same time,
Yeah.
probably you're going to get no results from any of them because they're all conflict and there's different things that are happening.
Sure.
You're trying to do 2 things or few things at once. Like one thing at a time, stick to it. Even if it's not perfect, you'll learn and get better as you go. And then whatever you get from that one, same like what you did, right? Different programs served you at different points of your fitness journey. And it's not that any of them are good or bad, they're just different. And so there's different coaches, different programs, different things for different people at different points in their journey. And so you got to pick one, stick with it, see it through, and then make adjustments as you go from there.
I'd probably say if there's one last thing, that whatever they're doing outside of the gym is probably going to be even more impactful. If it's if it's not with sleep, whatever you're eating, your nutrition is huge. It's whatever you're doing in there. I don't care if you're in there for 5 hours. It's not going to out train what you're eating and not sleeping outside of the gym. So.
Yeah, you can very easily,
fortunately,
visit the smoothie bar, even the healthy smoothie bar at the gym, and put back 800 calories that you just spent off. Spent a couple hours trying to burn off. Right? It's not doesn't work like that, unfortunately.
Yeah. Or in my gym's case, the Carl's Jr. right in the parking lot.
Oh,
multiple food places right in the parking lot there.
There you go. That's good placement by them. But
right,
yeah. Brianne, this has been very good. Thank you very much for doing this. I know that this is not easy. It's not easy to get on a mic and talk when it's being recorded. And you know that people are going to be thousands and millions of people who listen to this podcast.
Brother.
I wish are gonna hear this. So thank you very much, everybody. Please, everyone who's listening to this, please be thankful and appreciative for Brianne for 1, taking the time, and 2, being brave enough to do this, because I promise you guys, it is not as easy as it seems. So Brianne, thank you very, 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 very much. If people want to follow along with you, because you post a ton and always posting, where can they find you on Instagram?
It's just under Brianne Tedisch.
Okay, amazing. I will put it in the show notes. Is there any last message that you want to leave people with here in closing?
Oh, just to follow your podcast. I can't keep up with the handful that I have, but I try to check in when I can. So it's always interesting. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah. You stayed awake the whole time, so I'm impressed.
Brianne was worried that I was going to fall asleep and this was going to be boring, and I assured her that it absolutely would not, because people need to hear these things from quote unquote real people, not fitness professionals all the time. So, and Brianne's more jacked than me anyways. So there's that. Brianne, thank you very much. Everybody, thank you all very much for listening as well. I appreciate each and every one of you. Always make sure to check out Brianne's Instagram, as she's always posting her training and posing updates and things of the sort. And you can follow her for motivation, and feel free to reach out and ask if you have any questions. Like, share, subscribe to the podcast. All those good things helps get the good messages out there. Thank you very much. Go outside. Be a good person. See you next time.